morning. Good morning. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Ah, what a beautiful looking crowd. Very good, very good, very good. Howdy. How many of you guys are just excited and proud of the accomplishments of Redstate and Eric Erickson? God bless you. You guys are difference makers, and I'm the kind of guy that I still think I'm in college sometimes. I like football. Game day on Saturday's coming back. Let us say amen. Amen. And so, any of y'all saw that movie called Marshall? You remember We Are Marshall? And I know this is kind of corny, but it just seems, Eric, that We Are Marshall and We Are Redstate seem to work well together. So if I yell We Are, you should yell Redstate. If I yell We Are, Redstate. We Are, Redstate. We Are. Redstate. Oh, I like the way that sounds. I tell you what. Thank you for playing along with me. I'll tell you that I'm not a music aficionado because I can't sing. I would like to sing, but the good Lord has not blessed me to be able to sing. But I do like a few songs. Amazing Grace is one of those songs that we all should appreciate. And I think it's such an appropriate song for my life, and it certainly seems to be a place where America could use some amazing grace. And I was thinking about speaking to Redstate today, and I thought about the song. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see. I thank the Lord for saving my soul, yes, saving a soul like me. Let me tell you a story. As a kid growing up in a single-parent household, by the time I was 7 years old, my parents had separated and divorced. And I didn't think there was any reason for me to be a productive part of the society when I was 7. I was already lost. And so for the next 7 or 8 years, I drifted. Have you ever noticed you never drift in the right direction? Our president understands this really well, but I'm just saying, you never drift in the right direction. And by the time I was a freshman in high school, I was flunking out. I failed world geography. I think I'm the only United States senator to ever fail civics. Unlike Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio or someone else, I failed Spanish and English. Now, when you fail Spanish and English, they don't call you bilingual. Okay? They're going to call you by ignorant because you can't speak any language. And that's where I found my unhappy self. But I was blessed with two things. One was a mama. And my mama believed that sometimes love has to come at the end of a switch. And she loved me a lot. And the second blessing I received was meeting a mentor, a small business owner, a Chick-fil-A operator, a guy named John Moniz. John was an amazing man. He believed that anybody could think their way out of poverty. That America held the beauty, the brilliance, the opportunity in the hands of the person who would go down the road and discover individual responsibility. And John taught me, in many of the ways that Chick-fil-A does it for young men and young women all around this world. He taught me that if you wanted to find the person to blame for your dismal performance in school, look in the mirror and blame yourself. Don't blame your mom because she's working 16-hour days. Don't blame your dad because he's not there. Don't blame the schools or the teachers. Don't blame the society. Blame yourself. Because if you're the problem, you can find the promise. If you're the obstacle, you will find the opportunity. And for 3 years, John invested so much of his life teaching me some very basic conservative business principles. He taught me that if you have a job, you've done well. But if you create jobs, you've done fantastic. He says if you have an income, celebrate. But if you make a profit, you can change the world. And over those 3 years, John started teaching me some incredibly valuable lessons, and they started to germinate. You know, sometimes it takes time to get to the place where what you're hearing seeps into your soil and becomes a life-changing experience. Well, for me, it took about 3.5 years. Then, unfortunately, when John was about 38 years old, he died. He went in the hospital, had a blood clot while he was there, and my mentor was gone. And I remember the day before his funeral. And you know, things become more important. Things become more important when you find yourself in excruciating pain. At least it should. I wrote out my mission statement: to positively impact the lives of 1 billion people, with a message of hope being my faith in Christ Jesus, and opportunity being the lessons that John Manise had taught me about financial literacy, which leads to financial independence. And I will tell you that I've spent the last 3 decades trying to honor this man's memory, because John gave me the opportunity to think my way out of poverty. You see, in America today, we are not lacking in resources. We don't lack in opportunities. We lack in vision. See, leadership is about vision. And we need a visionary leader in the White House. And we don't have one now. And when I think about the issues that should matter throughout our country, I think about issues like education. For a kid who flunked out of high school, I think education is an incredibly important issue. Now, there are those in Washington, D.C. who believe that the only way for us to solve our problems from an education standpoint is to bring all of the resources to Washington, D.C. Bring all of the decisions to Washington, D.C. and to let those smart people who have already been infected by the Potomac fever make the decisions for you and for me. I think that's wrong, because your no's are right. See, they want a national school board that dictates policy to everybody. I can't stand Common Core. I'm not sure if you know what it is, but Common Core. Empowering. Why would we empower one man, the Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan, to make all the decisions for every school district around America? Why in the world would we have a national school board? Why would we say that any state that wants to change its plans has to first go to Washington, D.C. and knock on the door, be invited in? It's wrong. It is not right. It's hogwash. That's my profane word. Hogwash. Okay? And here's the challenging part, Eric. As a kid who grew up in poverty, if we want to change the system of education in our country, we cannot focus on unions, teachers' unions. We have to focus on kids. And if you're going to educate a kid like I used to be, I went to 4 elementary schools by the 4th grade. You can't how do you figure out which school to send the money to? You need to let the money follow the kid. We call that school choice. And I'm a big believer in school choice. If we're going to fix our education system, let's start with the kids. Let's start with the child. See, when parents have choice, kids have a chance. And that's the power of education. And that money should go to wherever it needs to go to change the outcome. Today, we're 14th, 17th, and 27th in math, science, and reading in the OECD countries. We're awful. Because being mediocre should be failure for America. And I think about the issue of education. See, I understand when I was lost, I had to be found. And in education, we are blind because we think all the power must first start in Washington, D.C. But we can see if we send the resources and the money back to the states. Trust, have confidence in those closest to the child to educate the kid. Now, you guys haven't heard anything about Obamacare here lately, have y'all? Let me just. When I arrived in D.C., I had an afro. I pulled all my hair out. looking for the solution. I can't find the solution. Because it's not in Washington, D.C. You see, there are those who believe that we have an opportunity to defund Obamacare through the continuing resolution. And there's letters going around. There's a big controversy. I understand the controversy. But let me just tell you my position so that when we get to the Q&A part, that you will have my answer, and I'll be happy to answer your question. How many of y'all from South Carolina? Excuse me 1 second. Those are my bosses. I'll be right back. Let me talk to my friends in South Kakalaki over there. You know, Obamacare. Here's the end of the story, and then I'll tell you the story. I'm not voting for the continuing resolution with Obamacare or without Obamacare. I'm not voting for it either way. And let me tell you why. Continuing resolutions are short-term funding mechanisms that are illogical in business. You cannot fund a business successfully and effectively by having short-term resolutions. It lacks predictability, it lacks certainty, and no business system in the world can operate and be funded appropriately by short-term resolutions. So I'm a no on the continuing resolution. So there won't be any questions. I'll happy to answer questions. There are a couple things that I find humorous about our current debate in Obamacare. The first thing I find to be very interesting is that President Obama is excluded from Obamacare. That's why I lost all of the hair right here. And then recently we received a letter that's coming to us from the employees of the IRS, their union. And they say, don't let us be covered by Obamacare. I lost all the hair over here. I pulled it out. And then those, there's this concept called navigators. Navigators are those folks who are going to help provide expertise in health insurance. I used to sell it, and a navigator won't be able to navigate the waters of health insurance. But those who will be answering the phones, the call center, half of the people will only work 30 hours a week, so they will not be eligible for Obamacare. Now, I know this is really good for people, but it's not good for the president. It's not good for the IRS, and it's not even good for the employees at the call center. It can't be good for America. I mean, there ought to be a notion called common sense that we engage in the process of having a debate about Obamacare, and we're not having any common sense. Why would we turn over a sixth of the economy to the federal government? I don't know either. He's like, oh, I don't know. I don't know either. You pulled your hair out. I appreciate that. Can you just shave that one right there because you got one left? And just say, I don't understand that. We're talking about one piece of legislation that extracts another $1 trillion from our pockets. A new 3.8% excise tax that will raise a minimum $123 billion. A new $100 billion tax on health insurance companies that will only be passed through to you and me. We're talking about the destruction, the implosion of a patient's ability to make decisions with their doctors because of the IPAB, the Independent Payment Advisory Board, that will make the healthcare decisions for us at some point. 15 autonomous individuals who answer to no one. This is a nightmare. And all of this to try to find a way to provide healthcare access, health insurance access, to America's 15% uninsured. It started off at a cost of $900 billion in 2009, 2010. And then by 2011, the estimate was $1.8 trillion. Now, according to some experts, it will exceed $3 trillion. And here's the bad news. If $900 billion wasn't bad, $1.8 trillion is not bad, but $3 trillion, we're not even at the bad news yet. 15% of Americans today do not have insurance after spending nearly $3 trillion. 10% of Americans still will not have health insurance. And we've not even started the debate about health care, controlling the cost of health care. We are essentially creating a VAT, a European VAT, an invisible tax that you can't really see it, but you feel it in every aspect of its operation. This is what we're talking about. And the way it occurs is that by shifting who pays for health insurance, you hide the hand that threw the rock. So all of us participate in this explosive implosion at the same time. Boom and poof of health insurance and health care. We have to stop it. My grandfather, he was one of my true heroes. 93 years old, still drives his Ford F-150 pickup truck. You got to have an 8-foot bed. Not those little 4-foot beds. I took him to buy the truck one day and he said, "Timmy, boy." I said, "Yes, sir." I know that's supposed to be derogatory, but when he says it, I say, "Sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir." He said, "Don't get me no truck with 6." He didn't say, "Please do not provide me with an opportunity to drive a vehicle that has a 6-foot." He said, "Boy, don't get me no truck that has a 6-foot bed. I need an 8-foot bed." I said, "Sir, yes, sir. It's not $4,000 more for that 8-foot bed, but yes, sir, yes, sir." So I bought him this truck. Well, and a Ford F-150 is about $30,000. The taxes that will come out of Obamacare is about $1 trillion. Now, I'm not familiar with $1 trillion, and maybe you are. I know my friends from South Carolina, all y'all know what $1 trillion looks like. I don't know what you did to get it, so I don't want to hear about it. I don't look good in orange. But anyways, I will tell you that you can buy 33,330,000 Ford F-150s for $1 trillion. You see, this healthcare debate, it's a debate about control. Who controls our economy? Who controls our healthcare decisions? And how we figure out at some point in the future how to ration healthcare. Because at some point, this system is going to implode. And the Independent Payment Advisory Board will be there when it implodes. I think we have to stop it in its steps. And we have a lot of work to do to get there. But I'm willing to do the work to get there. I said at the beginning, as I start to wrap it up, and I'll go to the questions. I was once lost. And now I'm found. I was blind. But now I see. I'm so thankful that the Lord saved my soul. He saved a soul like me. You see, when I look at my educational journey to where I am, I realize now, looking back, that I once was lost. I lost hope in America. I lost hope at 7 years old that there was a future that had grand opportunity for me. But now I'm found. When I was going through school and when I was trying to start a business, I was blind. But now I can see. You see, the journey of America seems to have obstacle and then opportunity, problems and then promise. It seems to work consistently like night follows day. It's a part of our DNA. And if we are going to be the life-changing country that I believe God has called us to be, we are going to have to wrestle with some of the very difficult issues that we face as a nation. And we're going to have to do so as cheerful warriors. Because the world is at stake from my perspective. The world is at stake. So we can solve Obamacare by eliminating it. The employer mandate delay is not enough. Repeal is far, far better. And we're going to get there. But I'll tell you that when we look at our economy as a poor kid coming out of poverty, heading into entrepreneurship, realizing the opportunities and advantages of being an entrepreneur. See, this is when you were blind, and now you truly can see. See, signing the front of the paycheck is a whole lot harder than signing the back of that paycheck. Can anybody give me an amen on that one? This is hard work to sign the front of the paycheck when you cannot sign the back of the paycheck for yourself. Hard work. But here's what I've realized. America has the opportunity to see the most explosive growth ever in 3 specific areas: technology, science, and energy. Let me talk energy for just a second. Am I out of time? Okay. Let me talk energy for just a millisecond. I'm like a preacher. I'm going to wrap it up right here. We could have 1.3 million jobs and add over $1 trillion to our economy if we uncover the opportunity of energy in America. If we do that, we will have the most robust economy we've ever seen. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
And I just enjoy listening to you.
Thank you. I apologize for that.
All right, you want a couple questions?
Yeah.
So I was telling the senator, I'm supposed to be the personal hook to pull them in, but I just enjoy hearing Senator Scott speak, so I let him keep speaking. So we do have some time for questions, though, from the crowd. If any of the attendees have questions, this is one of the things that makes the Red State Gathering a little unique. Sir, right here. Oh, I thought y'all were standing for questions. Over here.
Senator Scott, I remember a telephone conversation when you were first elected to the House of Representatives to assess the district of Hudson Road Heights. And someone asked you about the black vote in the Republican primary when you first got there. You said, if I recall correctly, that there was 7% black vote in the Republican primary. So my question to you, and it's puzzled me ever since then, because there should not be a black man representing the U.S. Senate from South Carolina to the north. Not possible. So how did you win the Republican primary with 93% white vote? What did you say? What did you do?
I said, please. Worked out really well. I will tell you that the George Will, fantastic columnist, said that the state, one of the two states in the union that has the most advancement in the last 50 years, included South Carolina. And let me tell you why he said that. Because voters in South Carolina, what we're interested in is not your complexion or the melanin in your skin. We're interested in the values that you represent, your position on the issues, and is it an authentic position? We don't want Johnny-come-latelys. We spell stuff that is, we spell fertilizer. So if your values are consistent with your voters and your issues are consistent with your voters, the amount of melanin in your skin is irrelevant. And we win. We win that fight.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Sir. I even answer comments. So your comment, I agree with. And yes, sir. I think the fact of the matter is it's going to take us time to get there. And until we get there, we ought to block grant the money from D.C. back to the states until we can whittle down the Department of Education. Because while I'm an optimist, I'm also a realist. So getting us to get rid of the Department of Education anytime soon would be a miracle from heaven itself. And so until then, we got to stop letting bureaucrats in D.C. educate kids in South Carolina. Take that money away from them and send it back home.
One more question. Yes, sir.
How are we going to do it? Are we going to stop it or are we not? What's going to happen in Congress and how are we going to stop this nonsense?
Well, there are a number of strategies out there. I voted 32 times, 33 times in the House to get rid of Obamacare. I'm a co-sponsor of Ted Cruz's amendment. I'm working with my friends in the House on figuring out how to eliminate Obamacare. There's a big push right now on the continuing resolution not to support the resolution if it has any funding for Obamacare. I'm going to be one of those who will not support the continuing resolution either way. So for us to get at Obamacare means that we're going to have to find a way to get into mandatory spending. A part of Obamacare is embedded in mandatory spending. The continuing resolutions do not provide us an opportunity to actually get to mandatory spending. So we've got a real challenge on our hands to use a continuing resolution. We may be able to use the budget deal that will fall 2 months later. Here's what I think is going to happen. Long story short, the continuing resolution is going to be passed with a short-term CR, probably, to line it up with the budget and control. So the debt ceiling, continuing resolution may find itself happening at the same time. If that happens, the pressure of those of us who voted against the last BCA deal, August 2011, I'll be voting against it unless something miraculous happens that I haven't seen miracles happen in D.C. yet. So I think that's really where the opportunity is for us to get into the mandatory spending. We're going to have to find a way to get to the mandatory spending to eliminate Obamacare in the tentacles of Obamacare.
So I just got a text to look to the microphone. So I looked at the microphone, and then got another text that said, no, look, there's a microphone, and there's actually someone standing on a microphone to ask a question. I'm sorry, there's a spotlight. I can see my ancestors that way over here outside of the spotlight.
Hi,
Go
here.
ahead. Last question for you.
Oh, good. I get the last question. My name's Mary Cass. I'm president of Greater New Orleans Tea Party. We have a good representative here, right here. We have been really focusing on Common Core, state standards, and trying to get that grassroots movement to push it out of our state. I commend Governor Nikki Haley for fighting the fight and you standing.
Yes,
I want to ask you if you can help us. I want you to talk to our governor, Bobby Jindal, who is for Common Core. We want him to get us out. And we want our senators, Vitter and Landrieu, to help us get it out. So I'd like for you and Nikki Haley to talk to him.
Be happy to do so. Two things I would tell you about Common Core. With the new reauthorization of the education legislation, page 89 is a very important page in Senator Harkin's bill. Page 89 says that any changes whatsoever to your plans has to be approved by the federal government and the Secretary of Education. Any governor who wants to have any type of control over their education decisions, even improving those decisions, will first have to go through the United States of America's federal government in Washington, D.C., just in case you didn't know where it was.
Yes.
That means to me that if you can just take Senator Harkin's 1,100 pages and flip to page 89, the power, God bless you, the power to get you to where you need to go with the Common Core debate is on page 89. It simply and specifically spells out that the control is no longer in the governor's hand, the education secretary of the state. It is going to Washington, D.C.
Right. Okay. We had Senator.
I'll be happy to have that conversation, though.
Yeah.
But
okay.
look at page 89.
Senator Scott.
Sorry if I took it so long.
That's quite all right. I appreciate it very much.
Yes, sir.
I think it's important to know that being a native of Louisiana, living in Georgia, you from South Carolina, that while we may fail English and Spanish, we can pass Southern just perfectly.
Hallelujah!
Now, I got to put two people on the spot as you walk off stage. Folks, I'm from Louisiana. For years, my parents said maybe I need to keep my law degree. And they're finally here today, over there, putting them on the spot. So, Senator, as you walk out, you can say hi to the guy who looks like me with gray hair. And my parents are here. Now, our next speaker, I told you that the establishment in South Dakota